Okay, so next we're going to bring up someone who literally created her role at the company by tackling an innovative use case. Let's take a look.
Data-driven decision-making means that we can take the guesswork out of a lot of the choices that we made in the past, but on the flip side, now we have more data at our fingertips, and we've got to figure out a way to filter through it to get at just the information that we need, and that's the direction that we're all headed in today's world. Most of my career was spent in accounting, and our BlackLine implementation and our subsequent implementation of transaction matching afforded me the ability to really change the type of work that I do. It's much more interesting and rewarding to be proactively looking at what's going on in your numbers and being able to provide operations teams quick analysis and support of what's happening. And it's really allowed me to be a much better partner for the rest of our organization.
Please welcome Sarah Pflug. Okay, so I watched the video a couple times now, and I just have to say, did our marketing team script you?
You know, honestly, every time I've talked to your marketing team, they tell me I do a better job writing for them than they do.
Yes, okay. Because, you know,
we're in the trenches, right? So we know what accountants want to hear about your product.
I mean, so much of what you say is the epitome of what we've been talking about for a few years about the exceptional accountant. Someone who's able to sort of get rid of the day-to-day grunt work and step up a level higher and actually look at what data is telling you. That's pretty amazing. So tell me about you, exceptional accountant.
So in November, I will have been with Domino's for 20 years. So that's a little bit of background. Most of that has been in accounting, and
okay.
Most of that time was spent in accounting. A lot of it focused on electronic payments, but in the last couple years, like I talked about in the video, I actually work for our IT department now supporting BlackLine. And in that time that I was working in accounting, I implemented a few different softwares, but I have to say that my favorite by far was the BlackLine transaction matching implementation, just because of what it can do. When I talk about it, I get what I call dorkily excited. So you heard nerd, now you've heard dork, but I think we're among friends.
Yesterday we started talking about, because I was very closely involved with the original development of transaction matching. And she's talking about it, and I'm getting all excited. And I'm like, okay, I'm a dork too. Okay, maybe that's one of our shirts next year, the dorks. The dorks with tattoos. And by the way, Michael, who was just previously up here, promised to show up next year with maybe lavender hair. We were working on it.
Okay.
Any commitments to that?
You just tell me what the dress code is.
Okay.
I'm a rule follower.
I don't know, you've done some pretty innovative things.
Yeah,
that might
true.
not be. So how did you come to choose BlackLine for matching?
So in our world, even though we had account recs implemented, we didn't just go to matching. We actually did a competitive RFP, and we reviewed every single option that we could come up with that was in the marketplace to see what the best tool was for us. So we went with BlackLine because it's flexible, it's configurable, and there's a lot of really powerful reporting features. If anyone out there is still living in the old reporting world or is thinking about matching without new reporting, that's a really bad idea. But the really important thing to us was the ability to enhance data as you import it into the tool using lookup tables. So yes, I'm going to run transactions in. Yes, everyone at the outset is of course going to have a 99.9% match rate, whether they enter or not, right? But then you also know going in that there are some data elements you're going to want your exceptions to have, so that you can hit the ground running in your research for anything that sticks out. And that ability really set the BlackLine tool apart.
Oh, that's pretty cool. Now, matching 40 million transactions a month. What was the moment where you went, we did the right thing, we got it?
So, as you configure transaction matching, even if, and I thought I was going to be the exception because I know my data so well, but even if you know your data really well, you're going to load it in and you're going to go through multiple passes to get it right. But the first time I loaded up real data into the sandbox and ran my just kind of spitballing pass rules against it and got a 70% match rate, it really gave me that glimmer of hope so that I could see where we were headed was real.
Mm-hmm. You know, one of the things that we see in our implementation teams, when people implement matching, they can match in a spreadsheet, but they can't articulate the logic that they're using to actually do those matches. And you'll say, okay, what was the rule there? And they give you a blank look, okay? And then you say, well, it looks like you matched the check number and the amount. And we'll say, oh yeah, that was it. I'd be like, okay, how hard was that? Did you run into that as well, or is it your brain just works differently?
I think that people that are good at transaction matching are, they're born, they're not made. I think that is, you either have that or you don't. And I think that's important when people are thinking about who they want on that team to be their subject matter expert that's going to help guide them through the process, that there are some players that might not be able to do it. But you do have those players, even on a team like that, where they know exactly what's going on. It just might take that another layer of someone interviewing that person who can kind of put those pieces together. I think that's where a lot of your clients use partners.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, super interesting, because we're always looking for ways to help our customers get up and going faster, you know, and with something like transaction matching, where it has such a high level of configurability, and you have to understand, again, like the goal of where you're trying to go. It was just an interesting thought that she brought up, that, you know, there are people that are going to be really well suited for that, and if they're not, they're not. Okay, you got the wrong person. It's just a point that I thought was really, really important.
Sure.
So, like Michael before you and Davina, you talk about some of the cool, fun stuff that you get to do. Okay, I think it was Mark that said we're going to make accounting fun again. You know, we do. We have all these nerds up here going, "This is really fun." But tell me about some of the value-added activities that you've been able to tackle and accomplish.
Sure. So we've got 6,000 locations that we are importing data for into transaction matching, and 95% of those, I know this is an accounting software conference, but we're not doing any accounting for them. We're actually loading them in and using that tool for operations support and monitoring to make sure for our credit card transactions that we truly get paid. Actually, you guys did a poll earlier. I'm going to stop and do a poll because I thought that was fun. So in the audience, would you please, if you purchased a Domino's pizza in the US in the last year and paid for it with a credit card, will you raise your hand for me?
Oh yeah.
I matched your transaction with transaction matching. Thank you. And everyone, if you did not raise your hand, let's fix that before next year, please.
Okay, it was a lot more than people that had tattoos and piercings.
Hey. Pizza's pretty universal. But honestly, we're monitoring, seriously, a crazy amount of volume, but we're not necessarily doing accounting. We're looking at the exceptions. If you use BlackLine for accounting, you're going to find the problem. You're going to have the details to book your write-off. and then you're done, potentially. If you use it for operations support like we are, we find the exception, we go and dig into that exception, and we research the root cause of it. We put a stop to whatever that problem is, and we prevent the write-off. And that's what's really powerful and what makes it cool to come to work and use the tool every day.
Nice. Wow. Okay, if you want to hear more, Sarah's got a session on how you designed and implemented your matching project and an in-depth look at the actual implementation. So thank you so much.
Yeah.
Okay, so our next